So, you say, is it possible to machine a flywheel for a Mitsubishi Eclopse 3G? Why? Of course not. Why would you think that? That's stupid. So, our gracious overlords at Napa looked at this and said, we'll take a look at it. They did. They said, we're going to touch off in a couple of spots to check how bad the warpage is. And they tried to grind it to no avail. There are some high spots. That's interesting. It is actually pretty warped. That should be probably flush. So, a couple of things to look for when you have one of these. This is for a GTS 03 Eclipse. If you're watching this, it's because you're probably getting ready to do your clutch. And you're wondering, what should I do about my beautiful flywheel? What should I do about it? Here are some suggestions of things to look for. 1. Inspect your friction disc, better known as your actual clutch. Inspect it. Look at it. Does anything seem weird from your new one that you have? If so, you may have to look at what we are going to do. So, looking at our beautiful flywheel here, this is a 3-piece flywheel. You have a aluminum, whatever you want to call it. This is the actual flywheel itself. There's an outer hardened steel ring gear, and then there is the actual friction disc that clamps to, actually it bolts down to the flywheel. There are 21 screws and nuts that hold all of this together as far as the friction disc. The friction disc is what we are going to talk about today. So, ignoring the advice of everybody online, took this in Napa. They looked at it, said, we'll take a look. They did. They touched off a couple of spots, said it's too warped, and to actually correct the amount of warping and the pitting for the low spots, that they'd probably get too close to the actual fastener heads, which there's a couple thousandths in between the fastener heads and the actual friction plate deck height. But that's no good. So, that's pretty loud. After doing some additional looking, we have ended up, you can buy the actual friction insert for this, which this is a 10-inch outer diameter, 6-inch inner diameter. This is for the 3.0, if you were curious. You can get it as a kit with the fasteners, and you can get it without the fasteners. I would say for the price difference, get it with the fasteners. You're not paying much extra for the fasteners. It's like 20 cents a fastener extra. It's not much. It's like $6. So aside from that, I think everything, I need to still take this apart. I think the actual housing of the flywheel, the aluminum, is probably still within spec as far as, I don't think it's warped. I think it is just this that is warped. But some things to check for when you are questioning what should I do. It's also Fidanza or something like that that makes the inserts. They're one of the few places that makes inserts that you can find online. The things to check for: if you still have your original clutch friction disc, take it out off of your pressure plate or whatever and seat it onto this friction surface. If it seats and it doesn't want to actually move and slide around on this, that's probably not good. What this one ended up doing is where you have the actual inner band, it had actually wore up into the friction disc for the clutch and it actually left a high lip here. That high lip, if you notice that it's also hot, is what we ended up having our clutch drag from, and also this outer band. So there is a noticeable couple thousandths of height difference between this outer zone, like here, and where the actual, because our disc is closer to the OEM size, runs out to the center of this fastener for the outside fastener. You can actually feel the height difference of wear in between those. So we've got two high spots on the inner and outer band of the friction disc that are causing drag, which is not good. Not good at all. So what we've, after establishing that, there's not a whole lot to do. This has just enough wear in it and high spots from overheating that we can't actually get this refinished without hitting the fasteners. So for $60 you can get one new shipped to you online, either eBay or Amazon, all day, every day, and just get one of these. And there will be another follow-up video to come once it is received, and it will be ready to install into the car after that point. And we'll take a look at the fasteners and checking to see if your stuff's out of spec or not. It is also interesting to note you can feel the outer deck heights of where it is warbly warped. And you notice that it's higher in between your outer fasteners. It is actually high spotted. If you feel at the fasteners, it's actually closer to the same deck height, and you can actually feel the warp as you run your finger across it. So that's great. Those are some of the things to check for. We had this fully assembled, thought, we'll give it a shot, and then if you had a 2G or anything else that had a solid flywheel, or if you had one of the race spec flywheels, you would be able to take it in and get it machined, and they would actually just flat deck height the whole thing. So yeah, in lieu of doing that, they wanted between $45 and $60 to actually machine this if they could. They were able to pop it on the machine and figured out in a couple of minutes after doing indicated checks on it that it's warped pretty bad and untenable. So yeah, I'm probably going to unbolt all of these, and we'll do a thing with it. We'll check with the straight edge and see how bad it is. Because that's one of the easier ways to check and see if it's actually very bad or not very bad, is you can check with the straight edge. Lay it flat on it and check it to see if there's any lift or anything weird going on. You can also do the same for your actual friction surface as well, to check for weeble wobbles, because you should be able to go the whole way across with it with a flat piece of stock that is a true flat, and check it for any raises or valleys or anything like that. Alright, I think that's it for this video. We will give you an update when we check all the other things, or when I check all the other things. Hooray!